Educating, empowering, and inspiring you to live healthier is our mission. So let's begin. Hey, health warriors. This is episode number 85 of the Life, Strength, and Health podcast. I'm Kim and I'm joined with Jamal.
Greetings, everyone.
And
peace and blessings.
Yes. And thank you for joining us this week. This episode, we will be discussing the dangers of dry breakfast cereals. But before we dive into this week's episode, just want to say that I hope you had a chance to listen to episode number 84. That episode was all on whole food nutrition. And the title of that episode was Whole Food Nutrition 101, where we dove into real food, what real food is, and real foods is whole foods. And we shared part of our live training that we have with our private health community, where we dive into many aspects of whole foods, how to consume them, whole foods you should avoid, and so on and so forth. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the episode, just go to lifestrengthandhealth.com/84 to access that episode. And as I mentioned, we do have a few interviews coming your way. We're super excited to share them with you. So make sure you stay tuned and stay connected, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We are on iTunes, Google Play. So just make sure you subscribe to the show so you can stay abreast of episodes that we release in the future. So now let's segue into this week's Organic Food for Thought. And in this week's Organic Food for Thought, we are going to be discussing intermittent fasting. An intermittent fast is a brief fast where for 15 to 18 hours or more, you don't eat anything except liquids. And you might already be fasting without even knowing it. Let's say you eat dinner at 7 p.m. and you break your fast in the morning between 7 to 10 a.m. And if you've only had water or coffee or tea, then you are already intermittent fasting. Medical studies have shown that intermittent fasting increases energy. It improves cognition, memory, and clear thinking. It makes us less insulin resistant, staving off fat and insulin related disease. It helps to improve immunity, lower diabetes risk, and improve heart health. And it also increases production of brain neurotropic growth factor, which is a protein that promotes neuron growth and protection, making us more resilient to neurological stress and thus staving off neurodegenerative diseases.
I'm definitely a fan of intermittent fasting. It's something that I do quite often, most of the time. And we have a lot of our clients do it as well. You get a chance to experience the benefits of fasting, but just getting those benefits for part of the day, as opposed to doing long extended fasts, which become challenging for people. And also, which we're going to get into today, just breakfast, especially in America, like the breakfast that people are having is just so damaging to our health, like the standard American breakfast. It brings us down. So sometimes it's just actually better to not eat as opposed to eating. Sometimes we feel like we're hungry. We just have to get something in our belly, and it ends up impacting us negatively. So sometimes if we don't know what to eat and we don't have access to the proper nutrition that's going to balance us out, it's better not to just eat anything at all and just, come back and get a really good lunch.
Yeah, it's important to start your day off right.
Yeah.
So now let's segue into this week's episode. And in this episode, we will be discussing the dangers of dry breakfast cereal. And, like Jamal was saying, breakfast is a very important meal, and dry breakfast cereals, they're a common breakfast option. I know I've grown up eating dry cereal, and honestly, I really ate it dry because I didn't like milk back when I was younger. But dry breakfast cereal, it's quick, it's inexpensive. Most brands, you do have some expensive brands, but it's inexpensive. And it's convenient. So those factors, coupled with the effective marketing and packaging that you see with breakfast cereals in the supermarket, that in these packaging, if they promote the numerous health benefits, and it has, high fiber, and it has antioxidants, all these buzzwords to get people to believe that it's a nutritious option. I see why it's so easy for people to really gravitate towards eating a dry breakfast cereal as a nutritious meal to start your day.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like just the culture overall here in the U.S., because we have different cultures around different meals and things like that. So culturally, we have a very specific idea of what breakfast is. And not too long ago, maybe 50 years ago, and it started to taper off maybe around 25 years ago. I don't have the numbers in front of me to be exact, but a home cooked meal from scratch used to be ideal, and it used to be the standard. I even remember in my younger years, we used to always have like home cooked breakfasts, things that are made from scratch. If they were the healthiest, we'll get into that later as far as what people do, but at least it was being made from scratch. So there was some wholesomeness to it. And the food industry began to target mothers, especially when women had to enter the workforce. They began to target mothers about the ease of things, and they led us to believe that boxed cereals were not only a quick and easy way to get breakfast into your family and to your children, but it was also healthier. So we got sold on two things. So a lot of us kind of threw out the idea of making fresh, wholesome, whole food breakfasts, and we got into having packaged meals, especially packaged cereals.
So like I said, and as Jamal was mentioning, we've kind of been duped, and it goes back to marketing, branding, and the messages that we see out there about the convenience. And it's almost like a win-win, like you get convenience and nutrition packaged into one. But as we dive deeper in today's episode, you're going to see that there's nothing, that isn't truthful at all. Once in a while, maybe eating a bowl of cereal for breakfast, if you want to have that. But as far as a nutritious breakfast option, dry breakfast cereal should definitely be at the bottom of your list of options of what you consume in the morning.
Yeah, I would even argue, not even at the bottom of the list. I would argue that it shouldn't be on the list at all.
Right.
And I'm the same as Kim, like you hear me say it all the time. My diet was as worst as the best of them out there. And, I definitely have my share of cereal. I've gone through, a half a box of cereal. I might have went through a whole box of cereal in a day, because it was like candy, especially something like Frosted Flakes. That used to be my favorite cereal. I could sit there and eat a box. Like I remember there was times I had it for breakfast, I had it for lunch, I had it for dinner. Got through the whole box, the jumbo box, got through the whole box in one day. So there's definitely some addictive traits behind it that it creates. So, this is going to be really good to just point this out. This won't be a long podcast, but it's going to be powerful. And I think that if you can get away from cereals, like get that out of your consciousness, get away from cereals, I think that you will instantly begin to take your health to another level.
Right. I think a lot of times we kind of get stuck on habits and things that we've, developed over our lifetime. But in terms of breakfast, there's so many things that you can incorporate as a nutritious breakfast. And in this next episode, we'll discuss it more at the end. The next podcast episode, we're going to discuss some nutritious breakfast options that you should be consuming. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But now we want to dive into some of the reasons why you kind of, you should avoid dry breakfast cereals, or why you should not incorporate them into your diet. And then one reason is that dry breakfast cereals, they're highly processed, and processed food doesn't equal good nutrition for the body. It's very hard for your body to digest processed foods. It's not a real food. And when we talk about starting your day off right, you want to start it with high octane foods, and processed foods certainly is not high octane foods.
Yeah, people don't realize just how processed cereal is. If you have any cereal at home right now, any dry cereal, what I want you to do is I literally want you to go pour some out and just study it. Just look at it. Just really look at what you've just poured out. And the average cereal, no matter if they slap healthy on it or not, it doesn't look delicious. Right. It's dehydrated, it's dried, and it's lifeless, and it's just sitting there. And we're calling this food. One of the things that cereal goes through is something called an extrusion process. And it's done by a machine called the extruder. And what this does is it flattens and it deflates or it will even puff and super dry and process different types of grains, and it turns them into what we know to be cereals. But it's a very, very highly negative process, and they use a lot of heat during this process. And what it does is it destroys most of the nutrients. A lot of times we feel like when they put on a label that something is fortified with nutrition, we look at that as a good thing. But in many cases, the reason why they have to fortify it and add nutrition to it is because the real nutrition has been destroyed during the processing, or it didn't have any nutrition to begin with. So they have to put something in there so that we could at least call it food. So when you look at those kind of manipulated numbers on the back, at least you see something there. If you turned over and looked on the back and it was 0 on everything, you probably wouldn't buy it. So when they fortify things, that's the reason why they're doing it. And also, you have to understand that when they are fortifying something, they're using synthetic nutrition, right? Nutrition or nutrients that's made in a laboratory. So cereal goes through this extrusion process, and it loses all of its nutrients. So here's the thing. They also fortify with these synthetic vitamins and minerals,
right?
And it even loses most of its synthetic vitamins and minerals when it goes through this process, and it denatures the fatty acids, and it destroys the protein profile, and can have negative effects on your nervous system overall. And it doesn't matter if it's a so-called healthy cereal or a cereal that we don't consider to be so healthy. It still goes through this same extrusion process. So it doesn't even matter if you're looking at a flake, if you're looking at some type of puff, even if it's supposed to be natural, it's still highly processed, and you're not getting much nutrition from it. And then at the end, what they do to seal it is they spray it with oils and sugar to seal it so that it doesn't get super soft when you add milk and things like that to it. So, and
most of the oils that they use is vegetable oils, right, which already is toxic within itself.
Exactly. Yeah. And we spoke about that in the previous podcast. So, yeah, you're getting hit from all angles with this, and there's no way around it that really makes cereal a healthy choice for you.
Right. And that actually segues into number 2. Our point number 2 is dry breakfast cereals. They'll spike your blood sugar and have you hungry again before lunch and trigger all day snacking. And so one thing with, flour products or grain products, they taste good and you get you think you have this full effect. But as I just mentioned, you still feel hungry a little bit afterwards. And so all day you have this habit of eating and then feeling satiated and then being hungry again. And that's just so much work on your pancreas, on your overall body. It strains your digestive system. It's just a really, bad place to be in.
Yeah, one of the things that sugar does not do is it doesn't turn off your cravings. It doesn't turn on the hormones that tell you that you're satiated. It actually tells you that you're hungry. So you're eating food, you're getting stuffed, you're getting full, but you're still feeling hungry. So like Kim said, shortly after you eat it, you're still hungry, and that begins a day of snacking or going back for another bowl of cereal. It just starts you on the wrong path. So when we talk about breakfast being the most important meal of the day and starting your day off right, if you want to start your day off wrong, you'll start it with cereal.
Right. The next point is that dry breakfast cereals will throw your hormones out of balance.
Yes. So again, when we're talking about being satiated, when we're talking about cravings, those are all hormones. So it automatically, when you begin to have sugar, it doesn't set your hormones right for the day. Most people snack. They snack all the time. And we try to get people away from snacking, actually. In our culture, again, we talk about the culture of nutrition. You're led to believe that snacking all day, snacking all the time will speed up your metabolism and cause you to lose weight. And, even though there's some truth to that, when you snack and eat all the time, what you're doing is you're adding a lot of stress to your pancreas. And if you look at these numbers of type 2 diabetes, they're on the rise. More and more people are being diagnosed with diabetes. And, eating all the time, snacking all day, especially on these sugary carbohydrate types of snacks, is going to get you to diabetes or hyperglycemia very quickly. If it's not cereal in the morning, people are having some other type of sugary breakfast that is starting your day off and sending you in that direction.
And also in terms of throwing your hormones out of balance, if you emotionally eat, then if that hormone isn't triggered to turn off your appetite, it just you just go down this slippery slope. So if you eat things that fulfill you, sustain your energy, it will help you to combat that emotional eating.
Absolutely.
So the next point we want to discuss in terms of the dangers of dry breakfast cereal is that no one really measures how much cereal they're eating. So when you read the label, they'll say the suggested service size or the serving size is 1 cup. But when you really pour it in the bowl, it's like more like 2 to 3 cups. And
yes.
So that label really doesn't mean anything because you're consuming 3 times the amount that they're requesting or suggesting, I should say.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say sometimes people are having, 5 times the amount of the serving size.
Right.
And that's where they get you at. Like, when was the last time that you had cereal that you pulled out a measuring cup and measured a serving size?
If you did Weight Watchers, that's right. Probably it.
Outside of that, you're not doing that. I never did it. You grab a bowl and you fill it up. The bottom line, the bowl gets full. If it's a small bowl, it gets full. If it's a large bowl, it gets full. We usually just fill up the bowl. And I started being more conscious of that, like looking at serving sizes on packages to see what they're doing, what they're suggesting. And a lot of times, most of the times, if you look at one of these dried cereals, a lot of times a serving size is 3/4 of a cup.
That's crazy.
And sometimes it's even half a cup.
That's like a snack.
Yeah, a half a cup, 3/4 of a cup, because they don't want you to know how much sugar and things like that are really in it, right? So you go from a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup to, like Kim said, 3-4 cups in a sitting. And then we'll add other things to that as well. We'll slice up fruit, we'll sprinkle, raisins and all other types of things on there that take it over the top as well.
Right. The next thing dry cereal will do is it will feed bad gut bacteria. And this is important. Good intestinal flora is good for overall digestion, strong immunity. So when you are feeding the bad bacteria, you are working against your immune system. You are working against proper digestion. And then it's a slippery slope that you start sliding down.
Absolutely. It creates an environment for the bad bacteria to be able to flourish and grow, bad parasites to be able to flourish and grow, and they begin to overpopulate our system. And another thing, a lot of these cereals are full of wheat and gluten and corn and all of these processed grains that actually cause inflammation within our gut, that causes our guts to the integrity of our gut to be destroyed overall, and it leads to what we call leaky gut. So not only is it destroying the integrity of our gut, but it's also causing an explosion of the bad bacteria.
Right. Another thing dry breakfast cereals do is that they do have a long shelf life. And as I mentioned in the opening of this episode or this topic, that one of the things, convenience is a major part why people gravitate towards dry breakfast cereals. You keep it in the boxes on the shelf, you grab it, pour it in the bowl, it's done. But anything that, has a long shelf life, you have to start thinking, well, why does it have a long shelf life? What is in it? Because whatever is in that dry breakfast cereal, you have to digest within your body.
Yeah, think about that. You can buy something from the store and you can sit it on your shelf and it can literally last for years upon years. Remember, fresh is best when it comes to your body. The fresher something is, the more life force it's going to have for your body. The longer something is able to just sit there, the less life force it's going to have. So you really want to get away from things that have been processed so much that they can sit on a shelf for years. And I don't know about like different shows that people watch out there, but we're Walking Dead fans. So we like to watch Walking Dead. And I always think about when they're scavenging, because it's like this apocalyptic world, and they're trying to find canned foods and things like that. Like I haven't seen cereal on there yet, where they got in and found some old cereal and was able to eat it. I think because that's probably a hot commodity. That's probably the first thing. That's the first thing people wanted was cereal. They cleared out the cereal aisles, so now you're down to a can of beans, a can of sardines. You might get that. You might find a can of peas, but
that's what I would have ate.
But you're not gonna find the Frosted Flakes, in the apocalyptic world. So maybe that's why we haven't seen cereal yet.
Maybe
on there.
So the next reason we feel that dry breakfast cereals isn't a good option is that it's not a whole food. And then, like in our previous episode number 84, we dive into the benefits, why whole foods are so powerful, and why you need to consume 80% of your diet needs to be whole foods, or we recommend that it be whole foods. And when you start, we go back to starting your day with high octane foods, real foods. You want to start just your day off with real fuel, real food, not just empty calories and just something for taste. So dry breakfast cereals, they're not whole foods.
Right. And if we think about this, talking about starting your day off right, and we already said that cereal is one of the most processed foods that you can put in your body, right? So you're starting your day off with a very highly processed food.
And the last thing we want to discuss is that dry breakfast cereals, like most of them, have GMOs, genetically modified organisms within them.
Yeah, a lot of them have corn in them. They're using GMO corn for a lot of these, and GMO wheat. as well as cottonseed and things like that. So a lot of them are GMO, and there are healthier ones, or I should say so-called healthier ones that claim to be organic and things like that. But even though like the palate, like even though it's coming from something that is nutritious as far as the original grain that it's coming from, and even though they meant well as far as the original things that they're using, once they process it, once they put it through that extrusion process, you might as well forget about it. It is no longer healthy. And I know that hurts because I know there's a lot of people that like to have their healthier cereals.
Right.
But even the healthiest cereals, like if we really like cut through the crap and just really look at it for what it is, a lot of them, you know, they're using like evaporated cane juice,
sugar,
and which is sugar, and then they'll say molasses,
right?
You know, and you say honey, you know, and they'll use a combination of these different sweeteners. But when you really get down to the core of it, it's the same thing. You know, it's oats, it's wheat, it's corn. You know, they may, you know, hit you with a kamut or something like that, but it's really the same stuff.
Right.
At the end, they may sprinkle some chia seeds and flax seeds in there for you. You know, they may, you know, put a little bit of buckwheat in there, but it's still highly processed. So yeah, it is going to be a little bit better than just like a straight, you know, what they call pebbles, you know, like the pebbles.
Oh, pebbles.
Yeah, like the pebbles and
Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, and all of these other, you know, like candy cereals. What was that one cereal we used to eat? It was crazy.
Fruit or something.
No, it was the Smurfs, like that.
Oh,
that
I don't remember that one. My parents bought no frills.
It was like these little.
They were like, I'm not spending it.
It was like these little purple puffs. And it tastes literally like candy, and it was, I think they were blue like the Smurfs.
What was that one with the marshmallows in it? Lucky Charms.
Yeah, and the one with the bird, Toucan Sam. What was that?
Follow your nose. That one. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but and they still make these cereals. I see them. I just walk past them. But, you know, they turn your milk, these different colors and things like that.
Yeah, and it just goes back to the dyes.
Yeah,
that are
the
just
dyes and the craziness.
So toxic,
yeah,
you know?
But even the healthy cereals, like if we just cut straight through and just went for your Wheaties or your corn flakes, it's still the same thing. You know, even if we go on to the other side of things, when you go to the healthy aisle and they have their whole aisle of cereals, the palate is still very processed. So it's really no way around it. You're still going to start your morning off with something very unhealthy. I will say this, though. There is a transition period because I went through it as well. You know, I went from, you know, having the highly processed, you know, factory farmed bacon in the morning and the white toast and the margarines and things like that. I went from, you know, having breakfast like that and white grits and things like that. Like I transitioned from that and I went into the healthier cereals, you know, and that was a step up. That was a step up, but you can't stay there though. Like if you're in that phase right now where you're trying to eat healthier cereals, you transition from eating the fruity stuff to some of the healthier things, and you're, you know, putting fruits and stuff like that in there. You know what? That is a step up.
Right.
Hopefully this podcast will encourage you to take it a step further, and now that next step is moving away from those cereals, right? Because when your health is all the way down and you start doing little things that's a little bit better, that's a small victory for you,
right?
And you're going to start to feel a little bit better. So even though we're, you know, laughing and joking and we're getting on these different cereals and things like that, we do understand that this is a journey.
Right, because we were there.
Yeah, we were there. You know, this is a journey. You have to start from somewhere, so you don't have to necessarily go from Frosted Flakes to intermittent fasting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It might be a journey for you to move to that next level. It could be kashi. You know, your next level could be kashi. And then from there, it could be something else. But just know that this is a journey, and don't think that just because you're having these healthy cereals that you have arrived, because eventually those same health challenges that was going to catch up to you having the processed stuff is going to catch up with you having these healthier cereals as well. It's just going to take longer, but it's still going to happen. So ideally, we want to move away from these cereals as well.
Right. And if you are interested in learning more, if you may say to yourself, well, what else can I eat? Don't worry. We got you in the next episode, where we're going to share some nutritious breakfast options that you can replace dry breakfast cereal with.
Yes.
So that is the conclusion of this episode. We want to say thank you for listening, and for access to the show notes pages, where we'll list episode number 84 and some other relevant episodes that we recorded, where we touched on certain things that we discussed in this episode, such as whole food nutrition, processed foods, label reading. I'll list those in the show notes pages of this episode, and you can access the show notes pages at lifestrengthandhealth.com/85. And before we go, we just want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Life Strength and Health, and Life Strength and Health is our wellness center located in New Jersey, and it's our mission to help you to optimize your health. And we focus on digestive system imbalances and toxicity within the body. So to learn more about our wellness center, just go to lifestrengthandhealth.com or give us a call at 1-800-503-7127. So thank you once again for joining us this week. Stay tuned for next week's episode. And until next time, live healthier.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Stay healthy.
We want to say thank you for listening to the show, and for access to the show notes pages, more podcast episodes, blog content, as well as more information about our center, Life Strength and Health, then just visit us at lifestrengthandhealth.com. Until next time, live healthier.